In anticipation of Disney's long-awaited development of a third Tron film, I've been exploring the lore behind the characters and elements that make up the digital universe known as the Grid. In this video, I'd like to talk about the lore behind CLU, who had a small role in the original Tron film and served as the main antagonist of the sequel Tron Legacy. CLU, which stands for Codified Likeness Utility, was a hacker program initially written by Kevin Flynn. CLU shared Flynn's resemblance but spoke in a different voice than his creator. Having yellow circuitry, CLU was somewhat of a rare bird on the Grid. In the world of Tron, most of the free and benevolent programs were blue, while those under the control of the MCP were orange or red. Because CLU was created outside of the system with the coding and technology of Kevin Flynn, he was not classified as a free program in the Grid, nor was he under the control of the MCP. Because Flynn similarly created the CLU program in Tron Legacy, also referred to as CLU 2, he possessed this yellow circuitry as well, and likewise contained the spirit of his user, Flynn, bearing his resemblance. Not very much is known about the first iteration of CLU seen in Tron, other than the fact that he was used by Flynn for hacking and for fixing Flynn's bank statements, as well as some phone bill problems. In the events of 1982's Tron, Flynn uses CLU to search the ENCOM system for code that would prove that an ENCOM programmer named Ed Dillinger stole Flynn's video games and passed them off as his own. While CLU was searching for this evidence, he was caught and was subsequently detached from the system. Later, when CLU was sent to the heart of the ENCOM system, where the master control program was located, he was captured and interrogated by the MCP. Even after being tortured, CLU refused to reveal the name of his user, and as a result, was derezzed. Because of this, Flynn was forced to rewrite the program from scratch. As such, the only relationship between CLU 2 and the original is that they share the same name and user. CLU 2 was also given an entirely different purpose: to create the perfect Tron system, something that Flynn told CLU they would accomplish together. There are some notable differences between the two versions of CLU, especially in their demeanor. CLU 1 appeared nervous and unsure regarding the dangers in his mission in the ENCOM computer system, yet he also displayed a caring attitude, especially toward his lovable binary companion, Bit. Though his role in the first film was limited, CLU was relatable and gave the audience a glimpse into Flynn's good-natured personality. CLU 2, however, appears to be a reflection of Flynn's negative qualities of pride and ambition. When CLU 2 was created, he was given the task to create the perfect system. The arrival of the isomorphic algorithms almost immediately put him at odds with his maker, because while Flynn saw the ISOs as a miracle, CLU only saw them as a threat to the system's code, one that could prevent him from fulfilling his objective. This conflict, along with Kevin's constant absences from the Grid, made CLU increasingly frustrated, as he felt like Flynn was ultimately setting him up for failure. This frustration and single-minded determination toward executing the plan drove CLU to conspire to take over the system. In an effort to discredit the ISOs, CLU created the Abraxas virus, who he used to build a narrative that because the virus came from the ISO Jalen, as a species they were too unpredictable and too much of a threat to the system, serving as evidence that they needed to be destroyed. When CLU's attempts to convince Flynn of the need to eliminate the ISOs had failed, he reasoned that Flynn must himself be corrupted, and therefore he resolved to eliminate his creator. The biggest factor in CLU's betrayal, as Flynn eventually came to realize, is that perfection is impossible for humans to achieve. Because CLU had been given the objective of perfecting the system and then using that to change the world, he reasoned that in order to fully accomplish Flynn's will, the natural next step would be to perfect the human system. Due to the impossible nature of his directive, along with his programmed need to fulfill it, he was in a sense driven to insanity, so that he no longer recognized Flynn as his user, but merely as an obstacle in the way of serving his purpose. In order to remove this obstacle, CLU brought 4 black guards to ambush Tron and Flynn, but by the time they were able to defeat Tron, Flynn was able to escape. With the creator nowhere to be found, CLU took full control of the system and focused his efforts on destroying the ISOs, culminating in an act of genocide known as the Purge. As a result of the Purge, CLU believed that he had finally accomplished his task of creating the perfect system inside the grid, and set his sights on transforming the physical world. CLU proved quite resourceful in his attempts to lure a new user into the grid, as he was able to send a message to Kevin's old friend, Alan Bradley. The arrival of Sam Flynn proved most fortuitous for CLU, as he would be able to draw Kevin's attention by using the father-son relationship as leverage. He did this by threatening Sam's life on the light cycle grid. Ultimately, CLU's efforts to draw his creator out were successful, and he was able to attain Kevin's disc. This led to a race to the portal, culminating in Flynn's final confrontation with CLU. In their final conversation, Flynn obviously feels sorry for CLU, knowing his limitations and the impossibility of the task which he had given to his program. He doesn't even blame CLU for acting in such a prideful and sinister way. Instead, he blames himself for this course of events and apologizes to CLU. Ultimately, over the many cycles in which Flynn was trapped on the grid, he realizes that it was his lack of wisdom and youthful hubris that resulted in what CLU had become, and that as the creator, he was ultimately responsible for this flaw in his creation. During this confrontation, CLU expresses his frustration towards Flynn's promise that they would change the world together. This highlights a fascinating point regarding the directives given to programs inside the world of TRON. More than just a core function, these directives can take on a seemingly spiritual role for these programs as they view their users as deities. This admission on the part of Flynn regarding his mistake in programming CLU to try to achieve the unattainable only further infuriated the program. CLU subsequently attacked his maker as Sam and Cora headed to the portal in order to escape. Still blinded by his frustration and his perfectionist vision, CLU attempted to follow them. This forced Flynn's hand in order to protect Sam and Cora. He reintegrated the program into himself, causing CLU's de-resolution and seemingly Kevin Flynn's destruction as well. While there is not much evidence to support the idea that we could see CLU or his creator Flynn reappear on the grid in TRON 3, given that all of this takes place in digital space, it wouldn't seem too far of a stretch to assume that their mutual destruction could be overwritten, or that somehow the ghosts of Flynn's code could be located and recompiled to bring Kevin back. While many TRON fans consider it a must to see Kevin Flynn back on the digital frontier, I think that given Jeff Bridges' age and recent health concerns, if Disney wants to use Bridges' likeness to provide that familiar face throughout the film, I believe it's much more likely that we get a third version of CLU. Perhaps one that displays the same spirit and quirkiness as the original version we first met in 1982, and hopefully one with CGI that's a little further away from the uncanny valley. But I'm curious to know what you think about CLU in both TRON films. Would you potentially like to see a CLU 3 in the next return to the grid? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more TRON and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.